started. Okay, I think we're recording. So good evening, everyone. Feel free to put your cameras on. It's okay. I prefer to be able to see folks, and you may want to do the same, as your classmates will be with you over the next 5 weeks. And it's okay if you're in your car or if you're wherever you're at. All good, all good. I'm Scott Hunt. I'm the professor for this course. So let me do a quick intro and then we'll kind of go around the Zoom meeting room here. So I've been with ACE almost 4 years now. Currently, I'm the executive director of field relations at the Ohio Department of Education. Prior to joining the department almost 4 years ago, I was a local school superintendent. I live in Ohio, so I'm in Ohio. I was a superintendent for 6 years, almost 6 years, before I moved to the very dark side and joined a government agency to help lead education policy across the state. Prior to that, I was a director of college and career readiness. I was a middle school principal for 5 years, a high school assistant for 5 years, and a high school counselor for 4. And prior to that, I taught for 8 years in 3 different districts. Started my career in Naples, Florida. Came back to Ohio, taught in Cleveland for a year, and then a suburban district outside of Cleveland for 4 years. So hopefully my time in the field, my experiences will contribute to the class and hopefully provide you with what you need as we kind of get through the next 5 weeks. So I'm just going to kind of call across my screen here and ask you, tell me your name and where you're from and what your current role is. So Carrie, you are first on my screen. Carrie Loftus.
I am in Illinois. I currently work in Bloomingdale, but I live out by the Joliet area, about an hour from Chicago. And I changed jobs this summer, and I am currently a high school life skills teacher at a therapeutic day school.
Oh,
so I left the public school sector to come to private school this past July.
Good for you. Thanks, Carrie. Zoom user? Sorry.
Sorry, I just lost my lights.
Oh, it's okay. We can see you. You're good.
Trying to get them to come back on. There we go.
There you go.
Sorry, I am a 5th grade teacher in Northeast Florida near Jacksonville, in a small rural district. I've been teaching 18 years and have taught everywhere from 1st grade through 5th grade. Currently teaching math and science is kind of my specialty, but I've taught everything for most of my career. 3rd grade's kind of been my sweet spot, I guess. Done a lot of different leadership roles, but currently just hanging in there in 5th grade. We just got new standards, so a lot of changes this year. Trying to learn everything and kind of readjust, and new grade level for me this year. So
good.
Kind of just learning everything new. So.
Good, thank you. Britta.
Hello, I am a high school teacher in Central Illinois. My path to education is very different than most people. I worked for State Farm Insurance for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And then I'm sure, as the whole world heard, State Farm started going through some major transitions and jobs started going away. And I don't know, I think that's kind of a sign. All I ever really wanted to do was go into education, but life happens and it didn't happen. So my job that I have now came open. I teach personal finance to seniors and career skills to freshmen, nobody in between. Not only that, our high school allows our juniors and seniors to do a 1-semester internship. So I'm also the internship coordinator and I'm also the career coordinator. So I deal a lot with helping our kids get to the next level, whatever that may be for them, and hooking them up with internships. So that's really cool. I think that we give our kids that opportunity to do that. So yeah, so that's kind of me.
Very nice. Thank you, Brenna. Andrea?
Hi, everyone. My name's Andrea. I teach in a small town in New Jersey, right next to Giant Stadium. If anyone's a Giants fan. I teach phys ed and health to 7 through, well, our school is 7 through 12. We have our middle school is combined with us. We're junior, senior high school. But I mostly teach the 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. I'm a senior class advisor. I've also been coaching volleyball for the past 25 years. And I actually just started a boys team last season. So
Nice.
trying to get the boys involved that don't play the typical baseball, football, basketball kind of sport. Mostly I have the freshmen every year. So it's a learning adjustment, especially coming back from COVID these last 2 years. The immaturity level has really hit an all-time high, I think. And last year I cried every day because they just put 36 kids in a freshman class. I had 3 of those. And it was just impossible to teach. Plus we're combined with like when we have a phys ed class, we have 9, 10, and 11, 12 in the gym with us. So it's a lot of students. So managing a large group of people is something that I pride myself in. It's difficult, but it's what we do as educators, find a way to make things work. So that's me.
Great, thank you. So is it safe to assume all of you are kind of on the path through this program to potentially get a principal's license certification and lead a building at some point? Good. I mentioned that now because as you talk about your class sizes, I mean, we're in a teacher shortage, we're in an employee shortage across the field. So making your way through the courses in the best way that you can, I would just encourage you, hang in there. There'll be some rough spots along the way. There'll be some times where you're not sure about the work that you're doing or how to get your work done. But I would encourage you to hang in there because it's critically important, not only that we address the teacher retention issue, the shortage issue, but we also need leaders, because I can tell you in Ohio what principals were doing over the course of the pandemic, and it wasn't being a principal. So we need strong leaders to lead strong teachers. And so is this your second class in this program, most of you? Yeah, okay. So not sure what you had first, maybe you had assessment strategies or something other, but I'm going to kind of give you the Dr. Hunt overview on how this course is going to go for you. So bear with me. I'm going to end up sharing my screen here and talking through a couple of things. I see Courtney has joined us. Courtney, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Well, maybe not. Courtney, I'll come back to you if you want to introduce yourself to the group. But I'm going to move ahead here. So, so it's a 5-week course, as you probably got through the first course. 5 weeks goes fast, and I would just encourage you, just be mindful of your time. And let me share my screen real quick with you, because I want to walk through some things and point them out specifically. This will be captured and recorded, so you're probably going to hear and see some duplicate things that you've already seen in some of the announcements already, but repetition is good. So let me see if I can share my screen. And let me find the screen that I want to share. Okay. So you'll have to tell me what you see. Do you see the screen that has the course in Canvas with at the top there's announcements and the instructor studio, so everyone can see that? Okay,
Yes.
very good. So I want to start in instructor studio. So this is very important. I want to make sure, and you'll see this duplicated in many other areas, my name and how to reach me. go through Canvas. Go through the Canvas inbox. I get alerted every time there's an email. I don't always check my ACE inbox through Outlook, but I'll get alerted through Canvas, and I usually try to turn around a response fairly quickly. The second email is my ACE Outlook email. You can use that as well. And I also have my cell phone there. If you run into a situation where you need to get a hold of me, you can't get a hold of me, feel free to text. Just let me know who is texting, and I can respond in that way as well. So do that first. Canvas inbox, Outlook, text, or call if it is an absolute necessity to get a hold of me. So I'm going to go back to the homepage here. So as I mentioned, and as you know, 5-week course is going to fly by. And so I want you to pay attention to this calendar. And you probably, or maybe you've asked this question already about these due date times. They are set in the calendar at 2:59 a.m. Typically, depending upon the due date, for example, Monday at 2:59 a.m. Well, most people are asleep by then. So really it's going to be Sunday night for you to get things submitted unless you're up all night doing the work. So I would just encourage you, look at the calendar here, because the calendar is pretty useful in setting the deadlines. There's a calendar here. And again, you're going to see in the announcements that I post as we move through this, that I kind of duplicate some of the things that you see in the assignments and in the discussion boards. I do that on purpose so that there's some repetition, and potentially my announcements are maybe a little shorter than what you might see in the assignment, so that maybe it's more clarifying for you. But at any time you have a question, you should reach out to me. So the calendar is critically important, and I want you to make sure that you use that. The next thing that you'll see is that I post all of the announcements. I try to do it the Friday prior to the week starting. Okay, so you've got everything up to week 1 already posted, with hopefully with explanation. If you have questions, which a couple folks had reached out, I sent a whole class email earlier in regards to the UDL framework and a Word document for the equity audit. So I tried it, like I said, I try to respond as quickly as possible, because I know we're all on short time frames and this isn't the only thing you're doing. So please read the announcements, they're very important. And I'm going to point out up front, if you're reading ahead, because some students in the courses like to move ahead as quickly as they can get through some of the material. Module 4, I am modifying that module. Do not do module 4 as it reads. It's probably 3 weeks or more worth of work in the way that assignment is laid out. So I'm going to modify that for you, and there'll be some specific direction on what you'll do, and that'll get posted the week prior. So just kind of hold off on module 4 if you're kind of ahead of the game, and I'll make sure that you have what you need to complete that assignment in a timely manner. So the assignments, the announcements are necessary, and read them. And I'm also going to point out to these first ones, please read the APA expectations portion. Look at the paper that I've provided, watch the video, look at the support and resources. I'm a little bit of a stickler on format, and part of your rubrics are about APA formatting. So I'm going to make sure that I'll give you feedback there on those pieces. Let's see. I want to also talk about very important for you to know is 2 things. Read the syllabus if you get a chance. It's pretty long, but skim through it. I want to talk about late policy. In the course, in this course, it is automatically set up that if you are late, it will be a 10% penalty, automatically deducted. I don't do those deductions. It's set up in the course this way. So you need to know that up front, because again, I know that life happens. You have other things going on. You might get sick. You might have to attend to something that you're not going to get to. You might be in class a classmate or someone in the class who is in Florida and trying to navigate this hurricane. So we know there are things that are going to come up. But if I don't know, then I can't provide any flexibility. So if you have an extenuating circumstance, and when I say extenuating, if you call me and say I slept in and I couldn't get the assignment submitted, come on, you know that I'm going to have to say I'm sorry, that's not an extenuating circumstance. But if your power goes out because there's flooding, whatever, we're going to be able to be a little bit flexible within the calendar of that week. So, so you need to let me know so that we could provide some flexibility. If you need an additional 24 hours or something like that, then, I'm happy to do that and grade without penalty. Because again, in the grade book, that status, as soon as it's past that due date time, it starts recording late time, and then it deducts from the points off the rubric, okay? So extenuating circumstances, please reach out. I want to talk a little bit about plagiarism. Yes, believe it or not, people plagiarize. And one of the things that you have to do in your submissions is to submit your work through Turnitin, which basically is it flags for duplicated work. Doesn't necessarily mean you're plagiarizing, but it will tell me that, oh, this looks like another paper, or 40% of your paper looks like another paper. You're going to run into that a lot in this class, because things like the equity audit, in which you have to submit, are going to get flagged for plagiarism. I think that one, the last several courses of this, some folks flagged it like 70% and were, kind of freaking out about, the Turnitin score. If you are properly citing your work, if you are using, listing your references, you should be okay. But please know that if I suspect or I see any sort of plagiarism, that gets turned in immediately. Typically, the score that you get will be a reduced score, half the points, if not 0 points, depending upon the infraction. It gets reported back through the college. There's a big thing, and they make you don't want to get yourself in that boat. So don't use other people's work. Don't submit other people's papers, and just make sure that you are citing properly in APA format. Okay. Can't stress that enough. I talked about the calendar. I talked about the announcements, and I want to talk real quick about the discussion boards. I think I emailed, and I see, very nice, some people are doing the getting to know you discussion board. So I'm asking that everyone does that. It's an opportunity for everyone in class to kind of see who's in the class and get a feel for some of the things that you are doing in your current roles. And I've also posted something here. So I would encourage you before Thursday of this week to get in there and just put a few paragraphs to respond to the blurb in the getting to know you discussion board. Okay. I'm going to go back to the announcements, and I want to point out something that is fairly important that I want you to understand. So grading and feedback, there's a video here. I would suggest that you watch that, but let me just kind of share with you what grading and feedback looks like from me to you, because it might look different than your first class. So there are 3 ways in which I'll provide you with feedback. I will make comments in your paper, and if you click on this, how do I view assignment comments for my instructor, that will show you how to get to that paper. Oftentimes I've found that students don't look at those comments, and they make the same mistake week by week throughout the course. So I highlight and I make a comment about your writing. Typically it's formatting pieces, and I'll point that out there, and you'll see that feedback there. When you get to the rubric itself, there, on my end, it's just clickable through the rubric. And there is also opportunity for me to provide comment. So if I run into something like you didn't provide enough detail here, you may see that in the written, on the paper itself, but I'll also put that into the rubric because likely you won't get all of the points on that particular spot. And I'll say, hey, make sure that you provide more detail on your agenda, or make sure that you were able to list and hit each of the areas that you were required to talk about in this portion of the paper. So I'll put comments in there. And then there's the overall comments at the bottom. I will always have a general overall comment about your work. So typically, I don't typically address content when I'm doing it on the paper. I'll address some content if necessary in the rubric, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the content you've provided in that overall feedback piece. And typically it is directly related to what you were required to write about. And you'll notice that in some of the assignments here, you're going to be actually submitting presentations and agendas and emails and letters. So it will look a little bit different in terms of how you submit those, as opposed to the assignments where you have to have a 5 to 7 page paper, okay? And again, I would go back to the announcements, and I would encourage you to read through this announcement. I'd encourage you to look at the template that I've provided that really kind of lays out what the format of your paper looks like and should look like. It should be fairly easy to set up for you. And if you've already been through a course, and if the other professor was aligned anyway, like I am aligned to some of the pieces here, which they should be, then some of this shouldn't be new for you. But I would encourage you to, again, many times throughout the announcements and the assignments and discussions, you'll see kind of, duplicate words in those places, and that is purposeful. There's also a site here that I would encourage you to look at in terms of APA format. It is actually a very good site, and that's the one that I use if I ever get stuck on, is this the way this should be referenced or cited? And then at the bottom, I also have an attachment there that has the basics manual. So look at those things as you are pulling together your work and doing your formatting and listing your references and making in-text citations. So I think I am going to stop there and see if you have questions, comments, if there's anything you'd like for me to talk about and go over. This way I'm not talking for another 30 minutes, and we'll make it a little more interactive. Don't be shy. Feel free to, no questions or silly questions, right?
Dr. Hunt, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
I know that you've got the Purdue OWL on there, which I love the Purdue OWL.
Yep.
But I noticed in my last course, it was very confusing on how to cite the modules. If we use anything from the modules, and I tried to figure that out from the Purdue OWL, is anything that you've given us, tell us how to cite that? Because I know that's one of the struggles I had in the last class.
Can you give
And
me
I
do you have an example, and maybe we could talk through that?
So like the video modules that we use,
Yeah.
we do, there were a couple times that I took information from those to kind of paraphrase and use like kind of my background knowledge on.
Okay.
But I was told that I was citing it wrong, and I tried to figure out how to cite it. So is there somewhere in anything there that you can help us cite it, or is there somewhere to go? Like I tried the Purdue OWL, I tried to Google it, and I always got that one wrong. And I wasn't sure if there was something that you could help with that. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but.
Yeah, so I want to say on the OWL site, there is a way to cite and reference a video. Is that what you're
Okay.
talking about, our videos? So
Yeah.
So this is typically two ways. Like I've seen it done, I've seen students submit a couple of ways. Some will take whoever the speaker is. So in this course, it's going to be Dr. Helm that is primarily in the videos. And so if you cite it as Helm and American College of Education video in that format, APA
Okay.
format per video, that is okay. I've also accepted if you've cited it as American College of Education video. So there's usually more than one way to set up who your author is.
Okay,
And I've accepted both. If you use the actual person speaking as the author, that's fine. Or if you use American College of Education, I've accepted that as well as the author.
okay,
Now, the only thing you have to be careful of is if you have in your reference list Helm as the author, then you should cite Helm in the writing. Some people will cite American College of Education, but you have listed in the reference list Helm as the author.
gotcha. Cause I had American College of Education because I didn't know the speaker of the last one. So I just did it that way, but she said that my actual citation was wrong on the
Hmm.
reference page. So I didn't know what was wrong on it or not. So I was just really confused because I'm used to MLA, not APA. So
APA is a little different, yes.
It is very different. So that's just one thing that I struggled with. So it's the only question I had.
Yeah, and look, if you have, if you're unsure, if I've made a comment and you don't know why, just please ask me and I'll show you to the best of my ability what that should look like.
There
Perfect.
is, if I can help, because I had the same question, there is on the actual ACE like resources, it shows how to put the videos in, like, and it actually shows the American College of Education video. I will try to send that to you. If I don't know if I can send that to you somehow, but I would be glad to send it to her to show her how, because I had to figure that out myself last time too. I don't mind helping send that to her somehow.
Where
you-
was that at?
An ACE manual, like for APA, which is where I got most of mine from. And then I went to Purdue Owl when I got lost from there. So, but those first, and then I went to APA after. I went to the Purdue Owl after that because I figured if it's on our school website, that was probably the best place to start. There
Right.
is an APA for APA. It's in like the student commons, I think.
Yeah.
It's somewhere on there. There is, but it does talk about the videos specifically.
I will double check that. Thank you. I couldn't find it last time, so I will figure that out. And Dr. Hunt, if I can't find it, I may email you or send it to you
Yeah.
and see if that's okay.
Yeah, and if you want to email me the link or the thing, I'll send it to the whole class. Yeah.
Sure.
The other thing too about, again, because I might be one who looks a little too closely at the formatting pieces, but I think it's important that you have it formatted correctly. So the other common mistake that students have made is that when you have if you have 3 or more authors, that you don't list all of the authors in your citation. There's a specific way to cite 3 or more authors. You kind of truncate it. You use the first author's last name as you have listed, and then et al. And there are some examples on the Purdue site, and I think in the announcement on the APA manual. So just keep that in mind that 3 or more authors is cited differently. And the other common mistake is when you have a long quote, more than 40 words, that has to look a specific way as well. And that is also on the OWL site. And so you just have to make sure that, you look at that setup. So once you get used to kind of what those types of things look like, you'll get the hang of it. The other thing is direct quotes. If you direct quote an article, you need a page number or a paragraph, or potentially a slide to reference, so that if I'm the reader and I want to see where you pulled that from, I can go to paragraph 2 on whatever you're looking at, because often folks will use a reference that is kind of web-based, or they pulled from electronic site. But again, I think most of that stuff is addressed in that kind of setup for APA and the manual that's there, and you have the OWL Purdue site. And of course, I'll happy to answer any of those kinds of questions too along the way.
Can I ask a quick question, since this is where I was making my last error and I got 30 points off my paper? Yeah. So we had to change our policies in like our leadership class. And I actually used my school policy and I did
Okay.
reference it, but I guess the Turnitin score, because it is actually our policy, showed up very high. So I got a lot of points taken off for that. And I'm not sure if how else would I reference a policy? Like I actually took it out of our handbook. So of course it was going to be a high Turnitin. I wasn't stealing it. I was basing our assignment off of that policy. I don't know where I went wrong.
Well, I don't, so I guess I would just say, when I look at the Turnitin score, I look at that percentage and I pull it, I look at the flags. And like I said, so you're going to get probably a 70% or higher when you hand in the first assignment with the equity audit, because you have to submit the audit. And guess what? That audit is already out there. And when you submit it, it's going to get flagged because every word in that audit. Now you're going to reference the audit. You're either going to have it in an appendix but you're going to have that as part of your reference list.
Mhm.
And when you're writing, you will make sure that you cite that appropriately. And when I look at that, to me, you've done what you're supposed to do there, and I don't know that I'd be taking off points for that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So I'm looking at, I thought I scheduled this for an hour, but it says we have 5 minutes remaining. I'm not sure why that is, but and maybe we only need the 4 to 5 minutes. But are there other questions? Anything else that I could talk about?
I do have another question. When I was looking through the equity stuff, considering I work at a therapeutic day school, all of my students have IEPs and all of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Is that going to be a problem when it comes to some of these assignments and things like that? Because of all of that, I'm just a little worried because when I read through some of it, they were talking about, like Title I stuff, students with disabilities, like this is my life.
Yeah. Well, the things that apply, you're going to respond to in the audit.
Okay.
And the things that don't apply, I think there's, you'll put a 0 or whatever. You won't.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I just explain why it doesn't apply to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because I was kind of like there's a chunk of them that doesn't apply because of the situation that I'm in, and I didn't want my score to go down because of that.
No.
Okay.
You should be okay. Yeah, you should be okay.
I do have time.
Yep.
I noticed in your and I think it was an announcement, it said that 3 to 5 scholarly articles or
Yeah.
I think it said peer reviews.
Yeah.
Was,
So go ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, I was just, because I think one thing I spent a lot of my time in my first class trying to do was find what I thought would be scholarly articles, and I was avoiding peer review articles. And so when you say peer review, can you just explain so I make sure that I'm thinking the same thing that you are?
Articles that are in journal articles are typically peer-reviewed articles.
Articles is what I had looked at before. So I just want to make sure.
No. Absolutely. No, good question.
Okay.
So, and just remember too, I may say to you, you can't use 3 ACE videos as your 3 scholarly references. It's the same. It's basically the same content or the same, so try to find a reading or a video or
With the ACE videos, if we use more than one, could we reference it once, or do you want us to reference the 3 different videos? If it was,
if you use 3 different, you should reference it 3 times, but when you post your year, you should differentiate because the author will be the same likely.
Mm-hmm.
So you will have American College of Education 2022A, 2022B, 2022C, or however many you have.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question too?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm driving right now too.
Oh, hi, Courtney.
And I'm my son from robotics. So for that audit, I know it's probably written, but while we're on here, I wanted to ask. So the 35 pages or whatever, we're going to include that typed out, checked, the whole bit in our 5 to 7 page paper.
Yep. You should
Okay.
likely submit it as an appendix.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the time. I don't know what happens when it says remaining meeting time. I hope it doesn't just shut us out.
We actually are having parent conferences right now, and we run
Oh.
into the thing, and it's 40. Like they're only letting you do 40-minute Zooms now.
Oh, maybe
Yeah,
that's it. Thanks, Courtney. That helps, because if we go off line here, then we're going to probably get booted off Zoom. So why don't we do this? I'm going, because we have now a minute, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to just say, I'll encourage you, if you do have questions, feel free to email. I try to be as responsive as possible. Even during the day, if I get something that comes through and I'm working my other job, I'll sometimes stop to make sure you get an answer if you need it right away. But if you do have questions, reach out. If you have extenuating circumstances, reach out, and just make sure you interact with your classmates through the discussion boards. And 5 weeks is going to go like that, and pretty soon it's going to be Christmas. So I'm going to let everyone get back to their work here this evening, or dinner, or getting home, or whatever you need, wherever you need to be. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have anything that I can help with.
Thank you.